Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the channel. Enjoy the listening. The Galactic Empire threatened humanity. They instantly regretted it. The Galactic Empire was a powerful force stretching across countless star systems, with fleets that could destroy entire worlds in seconds. Its rulers had conquered so many planets that they no longer saw the need to be cautious. For them, war was a game of power and control. It was something they were experts at, and they had never been beaten. Earth was just another insignificant planet in their eyes, small, weak, and unimportant. They had received reports about humanity's advanced technology, but nothing that worried them. The Empire had faced far greater threats than Earth, and they had crushed them all. So when their top commanders decided to invade Earth, they did so with complete confidence. The invasion fleet was massive. Dozens of ships, each capable of laying waste to an entire city with a single shot. Thousands of soldiers were prepared to land on the surface, wipe out any resistance, and claim Earth for the Empire. The Empire believed it would be an easy victory. They had done it before countless times. There was no reason this time would be any different. In the Empire's command center, the leaders watched as their fleet prepared to launch. Grand Admiral Varys stood tall, looking at the holographic map of Earth. A smirk tugged at the corner of his mouth as he surveyed the planet. "This will be no different than any other conquest," he said confidently, his voice cold and calculating. "Humanity won't stand a chance." Varys turned to his officers, who nodded in agreement. They had no doubt that the human race would quickly fall under their heel. The Empire had technology that was centuries ahead of anything Earth could dream of. Their weapons could destroy entire cities with a single blast, and their soldiers were trained to fight with precision and discipline. The humans were nothing but ants waiting to be crushed under the boot of the Empire. As the fleet prepared for takeoff, Varys gave one final order: send the signal. Prepare for a swift and decisive victory. The fleet of starships surged into the sky, leaving Earth's atmosphere behind as they headed toward the distant stars. On the planet's surface, people had no idea what was coming. Governments across the world were working together to deal with their own issues. Economic struggles, climate change, and political tensions. No one had expected an invasion, especially not one from a galactic empire. But the Empire, in its arrogance, underestimated the people of Earth. They believed that humanity's strength lay only in their technology, but what they failed to realize was the true power that resided in the human spirit. It was a force that could not be measured by technology or weaponry alone. It was resilience, determination, and unity, qualities that had allowed humans to survive through centuries of hardships and challenges. As the Empire's fleet neared Earth, Varys and his officers were already planning their next moves. They would land on the surface, seize control of the world's major cities, and declare victory within hours. There was no doubt in their minds. The humans had no hope. But the human race had a secret. It wasn't about technology or overwhelming force. It was about something far deeper: humanity's ability to adapt, to survive, and to fight back with everything they had was something the Empire had never encountered before. Back on Earth, world leaders were quickly gathering in secret. They had no choice but to face the Empire's threat head-on. While the Empire believed humanity to be weak and divided, the humans were already working together in ways the invaders couldn't understand. From their small communities to their massive cities, humans were coming up with plans and strategies that would surprise the Empire. In the Empire's command center, the officers laughed. They couldn't even imagine that humanity had any way of fighting back. "It's already over," one officer said, looking out at the vast fleet of warships. "They don't even know what's coming for them." As the fleet neared Earth, the Empire began to deploy its forces. The massive ships slowed as they entered Earth's atmosphere, and thousands of Drakh ships began descending to the planet's surface. The troops aboard were ready for a fight, but they weren't expecting much resistance. The first wave would be quick, efficient, and the humans would submit. But just as the invasion began, something strange happened. The Empire's fleet experienced a series of glitches. Communications were delayed, and some of the ships even lost power temporarily. It wasn't anything major, but it was enough to cause confusion. Varys stood at the command center, his brow furrowing in concern. "What's happening?" he demanded. One of his officers quickly ran through the data, his eyes widening. "Sir, there are signs of interference, strange patterns in the system. It's not possible. The humans don't have the technology for this." Varys' confident demeanor began to waver. The glitches didn't make sense. They weren't part of the plan. He glanced back at the holographic map of Earth, where thousands of soldiers and ships were beginning to descend. It's nothing, just a minor issue, he said, trying to reassure himself. But deep down, he began to feel a nagging doubt. Could it be that the humans were more than they had appeared? Could they have a hidden strength that the Empire had completely overlooked? Varys pushed the doubt aside. He had been a part of the Empire for decades. Nothing could stop them. Little did he know, the seeds of their defeat had already been planted. The humans were ready, and the Empire's overconfidence would be their downfall. As the Empire's fleet continued its descent toward Earth, the first waves of soldiers landed on the surface. Their mission was simple: capture key locations, neutralize any resistance, and declare victory. But the moment they set foot on Earth, they began to realize that the humans were not the weak, helpless creatures the Empire had assumed. The invaders began with the major cities: New York, Tokyo, London. But what they didn't expect was the immediate response. Thousands of civilians, ordinary people from all walks of life, organized in secret. They were prepared for this day, and the moment the Empire's troops set foot on their land, humanity fought back with unexpected ferocity. In the early hours of the invasion, small resistance groups emerged everywhere. The Empire's advanced technology, which was meant to be overwhelming, was being outsmarted. The humans didn't have the weapons or tools the Empire expected, but they had something else: ingenuity. They hacked into the Empire's communication systems, sending false orders and misdirecting forces. Empire soldiers found their equipment not functioning, their ships not responding, and their weapons firing in the wrong direction. Back in the command center, Varys clenched his fists. "What is going on?" he muttered under his breath. "Our systems should be flawless." He looked at his officers, who were just as confused as he was. A few reports from the ground suggested strange activity, but nothing that seemed like a serious threat. But there was one thing that had begun to bother him: a feeling, a nagging sense that things were not going according to plan. As the day went on, the glitches grew more frequent. Empire forces were getting stuck in traffic, unable to move through the cities. Some of their advanced battle suits, designed to keep them safe from any attack, were being hacked and turned off by human ingenuity. The humans weren't just fighting back with weapons. They were using their environment against the invaders. One of the Empire's top officers, General Crest, had been stationed in New York to oversee the operation. His face was grim as he watched his forces struggle. "We've encountered a problem, sir," he reported to Varys. "Our technology isn't working the way we planned. The humans are using tactics. They're interfering with our systems." He paused. "We're facing resistance from civilians. Ordinary people, not trained soldiers." Varys stared at the screen in disbelief. Civilians? How are they capable of this? The general had no answer. The human resistance was more organized and better prepared than they had ever imagined. The Empire's invaders had underestimated the ability of humans to adapt and to come together when faced with adversity. In another part of the world, a group of engineers and scientists who had been working on a top-secret project deep underground were suddenly thrust into the fight. Their project had been designed to protect humanity from threats, but it had always been theoretical until now. Using their knowledge, they activated the first phase of their plan. It wasn't a weapon of mass destruction, but rather a technological device designed to disrupt the Empire's fleets. As the humans began to push back in small but significant ways, a surprising truth began to emerge. The Empire's technology, though superior in many ways, had its vulnerabilities. It was no match for human creativity, resourcefulness, and sheer determination. The Empire had believed that they could crush the humans with their advanced weaponry and tactics, but they hadn't considered one thing: humans always found a way to survive. Back on the Empire's flagship, Varys paced back and forth, growing increasingly frustrated. "Why are they still standing?" he demanded. "We have the superior firepower, the superior strength, strategy." He wasn't prepared for the response from his officers. One of them hesitantly spoke up. "Sir, it seems the humans have something we didn't anticipate, something that can't be measured by our technology alone. They have resilience." Varys sneered. "Resilience? That's nothing compared to our firepower. We'll crush them." But deep down, he couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. The humans weren't behaving like the weak species they had believed them to be. They were fighting back smartly, efficiently, and with a determination that shook the Empire to its core. In the streets of cities around the world, ordinary humans, engineers, teachers, soldiers, doctors, banded together to fight the Empire's forces. They didn't have the training or the weapons, but they had something that the Empire could never replicate: the human spirit. And that spirit was becoming stronger with every passing moment. As night fell, the Empire's forces, which had once been so sure of their victory, began to falter. Their weapons weren't working as expected, their troops were disorganized, and their commanders were beginning to realize that this invasion was not going to be the simple conquest they had imagined. The first cracks in the Empire's armor were beginning to show, and they couldn't ignore them any longer. The Empire had underestimated humanity, and now they were starting to pay the price. The battle for Earth was just beginning, and it was going to be a fight the Empire would never forget. The first few days of the invasion had been chaotic for the Empire. What was meant to be a simple, quick conquest had turned into something much more complex and dangerous. The initial overconfidence of the Empire's forces was starting to fade, replaced by a creeping realization that the humans were far stronger than they had ever anticipated. On Earth, people continued to resist in ways that surprised the invaders. It wasn't just the coordinated attacks from organized resistance groups. It was the everyday citizens, the ordinary people who had begun to fight back. Engineers used their knowledge to sabotage the Empire's equipment, while civilians devised clever traps and ambushes to strike at the enemy. Human creativity had proven to be more than a match for the Empire's advanced technology. Back in the Empire's command center, Admiral Varys was beginning to lose his cool. He had thought it would be over by now, but reports from the front lines were pouring in, each one more troubling than the last. "This isn't what we planned," General Crest said, frustration clear in his voice as he spoke to Varys. "The humans, they're adapting faster than we can react. We're losing control of key positions." Varys clenched his fists. "I told you they were nothing. These setbacks are temporary. Once we deploy the next wave of troops, we'll crush them. They're just a bunch of disorganized rebels." But even as he spoke, Varys couldn't ignore the nagging doubt in his mind. He had seen too many signs of human resilience to dismiss it as mere luck. The resistance wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. It wasn't just the ground forces that were becoming a problem. The Empire ships in orbit had begun to experience more and more interference. Their once perfect communication systems were being hacked, and several ships reported strange malfunctions. Something was wrong, and Varys had no explanation for it. The humans, using their knowledge of technology, had managed to launch an unexpected counterattack. They had started to build a device, a kind of electromagnetic pulse, EMP generator that could disrupt the Empire's sophisticated fleets. It wasn't a weapon of mass destruction, but it was proving to be a powerful tool in the hands of the humans. At a hidden military base in the mountains, a group of scientists and engineers had managed to finish the prototype of the device. They knew it was their last chance. If they could activate it at the right moment, they could cripple the Empire's fleet and shift the balance of power. But it was a risky move. If the Empire discovered their plans too soon, they would be destroyed before they had a chance to use it. As the battle raged on the ground, a small group of humans led by a former soldier named Captain Sarah Lawson made their way to the underground facility where the EMP device was hidden. Sarah and her team had been on the front line since the beginning of the invasion. They had fought tooth and nail, surviving the Empire's overwhelming firepower and pushing forward with a determination that could only come from sheer desperation. Their mission was clear: get the EMP device to the surface and activate it before the Empire could stop them. "We can do this," Sarah said to her team, her voice steady but filled with urgency. "We've been fighting for days now, and we're not giving up. This is humanity's chance to turn the tide." With every step they took deeper into the facility, Sarah and her team knew that the stakes couldn't be higher. If they failed, the Empire would surely wipe out their forces and complete their conquest of Earth. But if they succeeded, the Empire's technological advantage would be shattered, giving the humans a fighting chance. As the team reached the control room, Sarah's hand hovered over the activation switch. Her heart pounded in her chest, knowing that with one press, they could change the course of the war. But the moment she touched the button, a loud noise echoed through the facility, the sound of Empire soldiers closing in. "Move now," she shouted, and the team sprang into action, rushing to activate the EMP and prepare for their escape. But as they did, the Empire's forces breached the doors. Shots rang out, and Sarah's team fought back fiercely, holding their ground as long as they could. They knew the EMP was their only hope, and they couldn't afford to let it fall into enemy hands. In that moment of chaos, Sarah's mind raced. "We can't lose this fight, not now." Just as the soldiers closed in on their position, Sarah activated the EMP, sending a massive pulse through the facility. In an instant, the Empire's communication systems went silent, and ships in orbit began to lose power. Their weapons faltered, their shields failed, and the once perfect fleet was now in disarray. Back at the Empire's flagship, Varys watched in shock as his screens went blank. What happened? He demanded, slamming his fist against the control panel. We're being attacked. One of his officers screamed, looking at the displays in disbelief. Our systems are failing. The fleet is losing power. Varys stood frozen, his mind racing. This wasn't supposed to happen. His fleet, his entire advantage, had been taken out by a simple human device. The Empire's perfect technology, their greatest strength, had been turned against them. For the first time since the invasion began, Varys felt a cold chill run down his spine. The tide of the war had shifted, and this time it was the humans who had the upper hand. The Empire's fleet, once so imposing and unbeatable, was now in complete chaos. Their sophisticated ships were offline, their communication systems scrambled, and their weapons were malfunctioning. What was supposed to be a quick and easy victory had turned into an absolute nightmare. Back in the command center, Admiral Varys was furious. His once unshakable confidence had turned into panic. He could see the Empire's might faltering on the screens, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. The human-made EMP had done far more damage than they could have imagined. What do we do now? General Crest asked, his voice tinged with uncertainty. The calm and calculated officer was now visibly rattled. Our fleet is crippled, our communications are down, and our troops on the ground are losing ground. We can't even coordinate properly. Varys slammed his fist down on the control panel. This can't be happening, he growled. These humans, they should be crumbling under the might of the Empire, not defeating us. His officers looked at each other, not daring to speak their fears aloud. Varys was the leader, but it was becoming clear that his leadership was no longer enough to turn the tide. As the Empire struggled to regain control, the humans on the surface were making their move. They had seen the Empire's weakness, and they weren't going to waste the opportunity. Captain Sarah Lawson, having narrowly escaped the chaos of the EMP facility, gathered her team together. The Empire fleet was in disarray, and now was their chance to press the advantage. She knew that it was time to go on the offensive. Now's our chance to hit them where it hurts, Sarah said, her voice filled with determination. We've already taken out their command and control. Now we need to finish the job. Her team, battle-worn but unbowed, nodded in agreement. They knew that if they could keep the Empire off balance for just a little longer, the humans could win this fight. The Empire might have the numbers and the resources, but they had made a fatal mistake, underestimating humanity's ability to adapt and fight back. The humans launched a series of attacks on the Empire's weakened forces. Guerrilla warfare tactics, sabotage, and clever traps forced the Empire's soldiers into retreat. Even though they were better equipped, the Empire's forces were scattered and uncoordinated. Their once perfect strategies fell apart under the weight of the human resistance. Varys stood in the command center, watching helplessly as his forces struggled to regroup. The reports from the ground were coming in fast, and they were all bad. The human forces were everywhere, striking when and where they were least expected. The Empire soldiers, so accustomed to victory, now found themselves being ambushed, hunted in the streets. They're not just resisting anymore. They're winning, Varys muttered, his voice barely audible. He felt a sense of dread building in the pit of his stomach. The Empire had always prided itself on its ability to crush any threat. Its fleets were invincible, its soldiers ruthless, its technology unrivaled. But now, for the first time in the Empire's long history, they were losing to a species they had once considered insignificant. They were losing to humanity. General Crest stood beside Varys, offering a grim assessment. It's worse than we thought, sir. Our forces are getting isolated. We're losing key locations every hour. The humans, they're too organized now. We can't stop them. Varys' mind raced. How had this happened? The Empire was supposed to be unstoppable. There was no way they could lose to these primitive creatures. The human spirit, the very thing they had dismissed as a weakness, was now the Empire's greatest enemy. Humanity had fought back with something the Empire could never understand, a refusal to give up, no matter the odds. Varys had spent his life believing in the Empire's strength, in its ability to conquer and control. But now, as he watched his forces being pushed back on all fronts, he realized the truth. The Empire's greatest mistake had been its arrogance, its unwillingness to see the humans as anything more than a minor inconvenience. The battle for Earth was turning, and for the first time, Varys felt something he had never experienced before: fear. Fear that they might lose. Fear that the mighty Empire might be defeated by a race they had so completely underestimated. As the Empire's forces continued to crumble, the humans pressed their advantage. Their resistance had turned into a full-blown rebellion, a fight for survival that united the entire planet. The Empire had wanted to conquer Earth, but instead they had awakened the sleeping giant, a force unlike anything they had ever faced before. In the end, the Empire's fatal mistake was clear. They had judged humanity by its technology, by its weapons, by its apparent weakness. But they had failed to see the true strength of the human race, its spirit, its resilience, and its unending determination to survive. The Galactic Empire, once so confident in its power, now faced a sobering reality. They were not the invincible force they had believed themselves to be. And Earth, the planet they had dismissed as insignificant, was about to teach them a lesson they would never forget.